3 ways to grow your existing SEO client accounts with Ilaria Fabbri. The In Search SEO podcast is brought to you by Rank Ranger, the all-in-one SEO platform that helps scale your business through data and analytics. Hey, it's David. Are you a little bit too focused on bringing in new SEO clients when it could be much easier to grow your existing accounts? That's what we're going to be discussing today with a lady who specialises in business growth and internal team development. She has a strong data and analytics background and is currently SEO director at Reprise Digital. A warm welcome to the In Search SEO podcast, Ilaria Fabbri.
Hello, David. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Ilaria, thanks so much for joining us. Well, you can find Ilaria over at reprisedigital.com. So, Ilaria, today you're sharing 3 ways to grow your existing client accounts. So starting off with number 1, targets your core audience.
Yeah, exactly. So the first point I think is always to define your target audience. And for target audience, what I mean is your share of consumers. So we know that consumers are like a very, very large number of people in the entire world, and that they can be interested in many, many different brands. So the main objective here is to define your share of these consumer, like around the internet, around online, around the markets, and as much as possible, basically focus on them in a way that you basically optimize your effort and your results. So you really don't want to go after people they are not exactly interested in your brand. Otherwise, it's going to be basically spending money, time, and effort on something that will not respond in the most efficient way.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah. In terms of the first question is probably how do you do that? There are many, many ways, more like using tools or more like manual and understanding the market. I guess the very first step is having what I call immersion session with the client, in a way that you can share your point of view, but also taking on board the point of view of the brand on your client, understanding what they aim to and what are their objectives in-house. So this can be a very, very first step in the relationship. After that, usually you go away and you look in your SEO tools or your agency tools. And something else you can do, and something is a little bit more manual but very, very important, is obviously to conduct a SERP research, a SERP analysis, and also a competitor analysis.
Right. Okay. So there are many tools that you can use to define your core audience. How do you go about, taking the next step and actually creating content for that core audience?
Yeah, exactly. So that is exactly the next step. I think having a core audience is what you need before going ahead and create your content. And this is important because, as I said before, this allows you to save time and money. So once you arrive to the point of actually writing your content and putting together your content, you will focus on the right piece of the cake, on the right market share, and obviously the content it will be much more impactful and much more effective on the result. So what you expect from the content is to increase click rate and to increase at the end of the process conversion rate as well, because you're already targeting the right people. Content itself, it can also be even more granular and following the purchase funnel description and purchase funnel split between awareness, consideration, and action or purchase. So this can be even the next step. But as a beginning, if you have a clear idea which is your target audience, it will help you to organize your time and effort in the best way possible.
And in terms of defining your core audience, are you actually a fan of also creating an ideal buyer persona as well? So an imagined individual that's the ideal person to make a purchase from your brand, and writing for that individual? Or do you tend to write for the audience in general?
Yeah, this is another good question. And I think like sometimes it can be confused, the concept of target audience and buyer persona. I think like a target audience is slightly more general than a buyer persona. And also a buyer persona is something that it doesn't really exist. It's more something like you create based on what you would like to achieve. So it's more connected to behavioral aspects and like social aspect, lifestyle, whereas like the target audience is more like data focused. It's more like something connected with age, maybe like profits or like areas of the geography, like in terms of like where this target audience is located. So I think like those two information are both very very important and crucial. But maybe buyer persona is something more connected with like maybe social teams or more media teams. In terms of an SEO team, what they want to achieve, I think like having a target audience is a little bit more important. But having both of them would be great.
And the second way of growing your existing clients is forecast frictions. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's only an experience I had in the past, but I guess like I'm pretty sure like lots of people they went through the same situation with their clients. Lots of clients they ask to the SEO team to produce forecast for the year to come or something like that. And we all know that SEO needs to be clear on the caveats and what it can achieve and what it cannot control in reality, because like the main point for SEO is visibility. So this is like where we can forecast as best as possible. But at the same time, lots of clients and lots of brands they have their own needs in terms of forecast. They probably need to get back to like stakeholders in the business or like more general and industry level needs. So I think again like it's very important to have an immersion session or like a brief session where we both share information and we both share point of view in terms of what the client needs to show to their business, like internally to in the business, and what actually SEO can achieve. After, in terms of like forecast, after that, I think like the best way to produce something like valuable for the client is to go away checking on obviously current rankings, current search volumes, but also interest of the client in producing new content, and also like comparing maybe to if it's an existing client to last year's experience in terms of how much of this content actually went live and how quick was the response from the client to the recommendation from from the SEO team. So all these aspects they can like have an impact on our forecast. And other two things, a little bit wider and more general, are including and considering the movements in the industry. So if, for instance, there are new competitors to take on board and to consider, it can be a little bit more competitive, the whole environment. And also, as we saw all of us in the last few years, social impacts, such as like, I don't know, like maybe a new pandemic or something like that, that can change completely the market and the ambition of your brand.
So it sounds like you're also talking about preempting any potential disagreements with a client and also ensuring that your goals are aligned. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So the word friction, like how I describe like a frictional forecast is like that. Like we absolutely want to avoid like frictions, and we want to avoid situation where we promise too much or too little. So I think like the best way is like first of all having this open conversation with the client, understanding what they need to achieve for the year and what SEO and how SEO can help on that. And after that, like looking at our data, which are obviously like related to only the SEO bit of the whole element of the whole forecast, getting back to the client and finding like basically an average, a good deal between us. So after that, I think like it's very very it's much easier to go ahead and to work on the activities, and also like making sure that we can meet the objectives and the results we planned at the beginning of the year.
And number three, become your client's partner versus your client's consultant.
Yeah, so this is again like something very important in my ways of working and in the experience I had so far with my clients. I had and I still have like very good examples of how a collaboration can be so beneficial in terms of results and in terms of like long-lasting relationships. There are many activities that you can like implement depending on the situation, depending on the client you have in front of you. Something like, just to mention, like activities can be CMS success, for instance, is very useful in case it's possible for the SEO team to have CMS success. Same as having an impact or helping out on Jira tickets. So working directly with the dev teams, for instance, but also with like within the strategy team and within like the brand managers. Another example is also like trying to be always very specific when you talk about your activities and report about the effort, like the client effort, especially talking about like the dev team if it's needed, if it's involved in the activity, but also the impact that can have. I think those two things, like the client effort and the impact, is like the perfect equation that gives you like a priority. So if you have those two elements in your mind and you are clear about that, you can define the priority of the task, for instance, or of the tactics.
Now, I think we've all had SEO clients that are not so easy to talk to and perhaps are quite fixed in terms of what they want. For instance, in the past, I've had SEO clients that just want a number of links per month and don't want to be on regular account calls, and it's difficult to forge that relationship with them. Do you have any advice for clients that are a little bit tricky to involve in potential more partnership conversations?
Yeah, I think like it is something like that. Something like happen to everyone having like the tricky client. I think like the more you are connected with data and the more like you can like like present your proposal, your recommendation like with sources, good sources and like good like examples and even like case studies if you have any of them like relative to what you want to achieve with your client, is always like a good example and something like it can push and can help you to go through like your recommendation or your like strategy. Being very aware of the industry, not only our industry such as like Google updates or things like that, but also be aware of their industry, the industry they act in, is also very important because it demonstrates that you know about their specific challenges.
Great tip, great tip. Actually, I remember having a client that was in the hotel industry, and I got in with them more by talking about previous experience that I'd had in the hospitality industry. So I think that's a great piece of advice, when you can demonstrate either experience or interest in the industry that they happen to be in. I'm sure you can get the conversation going more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you had like similar client is always helpful.
Well, let's finish off with
the Pareto pickle.
So Pareto says that you can get 80% of your results from 20% of your efforts. What's one SEO activity that you would recommend that provides incredible results for modest levels of effort?
Cool. I think like based on real experience I had, something very quick you can do, and it usually has a very great impact, is looking at your URLs and making sure like URLs are descriptive and optimized. What I mean is like including, for instance, the keyword, or including the term you really want to focus on or you really want to target your page on. This is something like can be done in a very quick way, and it can like have a great impact. This is obviously, it's just like the cherry on the cake. Is it cannot be like taken as the only advice, but that plus refreshing, for instance, existing content is again like something like you can do slightly quicker than create new content, but it gives you a good impact.
Now, if you have existing URLs which aren't particularly keyword friendly, they just contain lots of numbers and letters, I presume that you would say just keep the existing URLs, keep the existing SEO rankings for those URLs, but perhaps for future URLs, or would you actually suggest changing old ones as well?
No, yeah, of course, like for future URLs, but depending on the situation, depending on the type of page, if it's a page that is not really like too old in terms of like, like how long it's been live, or like it doesn't really have too many backlinks, or like it's not like didn't gain too much authority, we can even think about like changing it. Usually this is like ideal when you plan a new page in order to have like the all steps like connected with the strategy, and this is like the best way to approach that. But it happened to me in the past where we slightly review like URLs, and we had great impact on that.
And what are the main benefits? I mean, you talk about great impact there. Are you talking about helping search engines better understand the context and meaning of your page? Are you talking about perhaps having better click-through rate from the SERP because of the improved understanding of what the page might be about to the user, or something else?
Yeah, and also better ranking for the keyword or the topic we wanted to focus on, or we wanted to target on. And lastly, if these old strategies connected with PPC as well, having like a strong page content wise as a landing page we can share with the PPC team as well, for them to use in the paid ads is again like an extra bit of push.
I've been your host, David Bain. You can find Ilaria by searching Ilaria Fabbri on LinkedIn. Ilaria, thanks so much for being on the In Search SEO podcast.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. Check out all the previous episodes and sign up for a free trial of the Rank Ranger platform over at rankranger.com.